Welcome to AminAcademy.com. Let us do Ottoman Empire, the important wars and battles. The rivalry between the Sunni Ottomans and their Shia neighbors to the east, the Safavid dynasty, 1501 to 1736, started when the first Safavid ruler, Shah Ismail, in 1501 to 1524, declared Shia Islam as the state religion of his empire and openly declared hostility to neighboring powers. All Sunnis Sultan Selim I asked their neighbors to invade, but Ismail fought off the incursions, following which they intruded in eastern Anatolia. In response, Selim I initiated the Ottoman-Persian War, which would span over 3 centuries and proved to be ultimately futile and exhaustive for both sides. To start, Selim massacred Safavid sympathizers in Anatolia, following which he forced the Shah to face him at the Battle of Chaldiran in 1514, where he pulverized the highly experienced, although outnumbered, Persian field force with his gunpowder weapons and elite Janissary corps, forcing the Shah to flee the field in panic. In the Battle of Chaldiran was the first major military engagements against the Persians, although future battles would become more and more challenging. With his with his victory, Selim secured parts of northern Iraq and Azerbaijan and even went so far as to take the Safavid capital of Tabriz, but had to retreat due to tactical vulnerability and logistical issues. Selim's son Sultan Suleiman continued the eastward struggle of his father and took Tabriz and Baghdad in 1534, the latter being the former Abbasid capital, a symbolic addition to the Ottoman realm. The hostilities were put aside temporarily with the Treaty of Amasya in 1555, and for around 3 centuries thereafter, the relation between Ottomans and Persians would see ceasefire agreements punctuated by violent confrontations. During this time, ambitious Sultan made vehement attempts at reasserting military superiority against their rivals. In Sultan Murad IV from 1623 to 1640, for example, launched an ambitious campaign and succeeded in retaking Baghdad from the Safavids in 1639. The Ottoman Persian Wars raged on for 2 more centuries, but hostilities were bred for good with the Treatise of Erzurum in 1823 and 1847, which defined the borders between the two realms, and the two sides established diplomatic ties, the positive effects of which are seen even today. The conquest of the Middle East and gains in North Africa. After his campaign against Shia Iran in 1514, Selim had redirected his territorial expansion effort and the Mamluk Sultanate of Egypt, Levant, and Hejaz, which had an inclination towards Safavid Iran and had hosted rebellious Ottoman princes as political leverage, was now a target sweeping over the Ramazanids and the Dulkadirs in 1516, the last independent Anatolian beyliks, which acted as buffers between the Ottomans and the Mamluks. Selim made it clear that he intended to push southwards. The two armies met at the Battle of Marj Dabik in 1516, north of Aleppo, where Selim destroyed the Mamluks' field army using his gunpowder weapons. With, with the Mamluks utterly devastated on the field, the realm began to fold under the sway of the Ottomans. Syria, Levant, and Hejaz were quick to surrender. By By 1517, Selim had taken all of the Mamluk realm, Egypt included, compared to his victory against the Safavids, the 1516 to 1517 Ottoman Mamluk conflict was a far bigger triumph. However, this incessant military struggle would ultimately take its toll on Selim himself, who died in 1520, but not without having doubled the size of his empire in less than a decade. The Sultan had also annexed Algiers in 1517. Tunis fell under the control of Suleiman in 1534, and his control was remained cemented through subsequent military expeditions. Back in the Middle East, Selim II ordered the conquest of Yemen, following which the empire made gains in Tunis and in Fez, Morocco. Territorial disintegration. In 1529, the titanic force of Suleiman the Magnificent placed Vienna under siege but failed to capture the city, despite having overwhelming numbers, owing in part to the challenges presented by the winter and lack of preparedness. Though Suleiman's attempt at Vienna failed, his campaign in Europe were remarkably successful. But over a century later, the Ottomans were no more ready for taking Vienna as they had been in 1529. When they appeared once again before the walls of the Austrian capital in 1683 and were soundly defeated again. This was the turning point in the fate of the Ottoman Empire, marking the start of gradual territorial loss until nothing remained outside of what is modern day Turkey. The formed in the aftermath of the First World War, 1914 to 1918 in 1022. So far, we discussed about wars in Ottoman Empire. If you have done, please subscribe our YouTube channel.